Communities in Zamfara, Bauchi and Southern Kaduna have been thrown into mourning following deadly attacks by terrorists that claimed more than 100 lives. In Kaduna State, about 28 people were killed and many others injured after bandits stormed Kaura Local Government, burning down houses, destroying vehicles and shooting sporadically. In Zamfara, scores of terrorists, residents and soldiers lost their lives during a gun battle between the terrorists and the military. More than 60 civilians were reportedly died during the attack. In Bauchi, the terrorists suffered a heavy blow as quite a number of them were killed during a joint security operation led by the State Police Command. Some residents trapped during the battle lost their lives. Joining us from our Abuja studio is the CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiative, Patrick Agbambu. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
Right. Give us a sense of what you felt looking at this situation when you saw the report. It's concerning from some quarters of the country because a lot of Nigerians felt that we were gaining grounds, with regards to dealing with these people. But then again, we are seeing this number of persons killed, the attacks in some of the states, and it's becoming worrisome.
With the level of achievement that has been recorded in recent times in the last few weeks. But sadly, this last weekend was just a bloody weekend.
States that you mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised with what is happening in Zamfara because the people and the government have not shown commitment in ensuring that the crisis is put to a stop. But the Bauchi incident is something that is a wake-up call that security forces have to actually face instantly. The Kaduna incident is sad because it has become a recurrent decima, and I think that once and for all, government and the people must make sure that this stops. We can't continue to lose precious lives of Nigerians in Kaduna and any state in the country. So seriously speaking, it's a worrisome development, and I believe that that the security forces will sit up and ensure that it doesn't continue.
You mentioned something that the Zamfara government has not shown commitment. Commitment in what sense? I'd like to understand better.
Yes, seriously speaking, I'm sure that the security forces themselves will be confused on the stance of the government and people of Zamfara State because they speak something and they do something else. I don't think the security forces are getting the kind of support they require from the government. There are intelligence reports that have actually indicted so many people that action should have been taken. And these are not the things that the security forces should do. It is this government and the people that should do it. The Southern Local Government that this incident happened, it has been a hotbed. In fact, for information, that is where this banditry issue started, and it's been there. And obviously, the people and the local authorities and the government seems not to take a drastic action to stop it. I must tell you, 70% of all these crises we are experiencing, it's not something that the security forces would tackle. It's the people and the government that must do it. The Southern Local Government is inaccessible. Those communities that we attack, there are no presence of governance in those areas. And there are a lot of informants who have allegiance to these bandits that are in those communities. And so it's really something that I think that the people must work together with the security forces to ensure that they are protected.
All right, Patrick, one would assume, excuse me, one would assume that the governors on one hand would like to do everything they can to ensure that peace and normalcy and calmness returns to their city, their states, so they can, ensure that economic activities continue, for them to be able to generate internal revenue for development, and so on. how helpless are the governors in this situation? Because this has been on for years. We've been talking about this for so many years now, over a decade in some of the areas. How helpless are the governors in tackling these issues?
I don't think that the governors are helpless in tackling these issues. These are the issues. Yes, we agree that it has been lingering for a very long time. There have been total neglect of some of all these communities, giving rooms to all these non-state actors to take control of all these communities for a very long time. There are so many ungoverned spaces in those areas, and it's because of lack of government government inaction in development and reaching out to these people. You agree with me that it's only during the campaign season period that you see governments reaching to some communities to solicit for votes, after which nothing of such happens again. And that's really, it's a major factor to all these crises we are talking about. Then secondly, the federal government, I must say, has given the governors what they need to be able to support the security agencies to do what they should do. But some of the governors, I must say here categorically, are not really doing what they should do. Let me tell you one thing. I had a discussion with a former governor, and he told me that, look, Patrick, do you know that sometimes when there is a lot of insecurity in the state, the governors may make more money for themselves because there will be a lot of security votes that will come in. Well, I'm not saying that should be the case or that is the case, but one should actually look into it. Because of the immunity that the governors have, I would have asked that there's need to probe the finances of some of all these state governors, because it's beginning to disturb Nigerians very seriously. They should probe and see how, because their security votes are not checked. Nobody knows how much they're taking, and that makes this insecurity not to be resolved fast. This is my own opinion, and I think that something drastic must be done. Let there be a probe of how these security votes are being dispensed by the state governments and all their agencies. Then, or let the federal government declare state of emergency particularly in Zamfara state, so that the military and all the security forces, the police, they will go all out and flush out for these bandits where they are, because that is the hotbed where these bandits that are attacking Niger State, attacking Kaduna State, where they go as is their sanctuary, so to say.
Right. One would say this is a weighty allegation that has been made by you from the statement you have made, but I am wondering how the people can come in here, because you mentioned that the area where this attack happened, especially in Zamfara State, that is inaccessible. Aren't they helpless? What can they do to addressing this matter? Because you mentioned earlier that the people and the government are the ones that can address this matter. What can the people do to address this?
Yeah, first, I will sympathize with some of all these people, because when the government, who is supposed to take care of their necessities in terms of our social amenities, are not providing, anybody who comes to provide what can be regarded as a bit of succor becomes their savior. And so they pledge allegiance to those people. And that has, over time, made some of all these people to believe that these bandits are their saviors. And so they rather want to be on the side of the bandits and not on the side of the government or the side of security forces, which is counterproductive, really. I think that the people have a lot to do. Take, for instance, the incidents that happened in the Malele and the Mutuji area, where the over 40 motorcyclists were seen riding, and each of these motorcyclists have about two of these bandits on them. Went into a community, and this community didn't do anything. And really, that is to say that there is some connivance or there are some collaborators within those communities. That shouldn't be. And I think that we as citizens must provide the needed information that is needed for the security forces to do their job diligently without compromising anything.
All right, we've seen...
We need to quickly go on a commercial break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation with you. Do stay with us.
You're watching TVC Breakfast, and on this segment, we're talking about the security challenges generally, and we have the CEO of Security Watch Africa Initiative, Patrick Abambu, joining us from our Abuja studio. Now, Patrick, before we went on break, I was going to ask the issue of the fifth columnist that we have, because there are several reports, there have been several reports of politicians, traditional rulers at some point being arrested or being accused of selling out, sometimes giving information or assisting the bandits and terrorists. We've seen situations where the security agencies are going on an operation and then there's an ambush because the bandits have an information ahead of the security agents regarding their movement and wherever they're going and whatever they're going to do and all of that. Now, talk to us how challenging that is to the fight against this insecurity, and if there is a way to weed these people out or find them out who they are and so on.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is a major factor that has been affecting security forces from actually totally eliminating these bandits and terrorists or insurgents, whoever they are, because of, like I said earlier, collaborators within the communities and providing information to the bandits and to the detriment of the security forces' actions. And that really is sad. And obviously, the reasons are far-fetched. Some of them are being intimidated. The reason is not far-fetched. Some of them are being intimidated, while some of them are business partners with these bandits. Because, you know, the war economy, there's so much money when there are crises. And so many people benefit in these businesses in providing all the needed logistics or information, arms and ammunition to these bandits. People who make money out of it, and so they rather want to protect their business, and so without caring that they are jeopardizing the lives of innocent citizens. So that is a major factor that is stopping the total elimination of this insecurity in the country. One of the factors, again, that is affecting this, especially in some of these terrains where they are not motorable. Like you see, the bandits have devised a means of, they no longer operate with vehicles. They operate with motorcycles because the terrain is actually very, very terrible. I remember some years ago, the former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Buratai, set up the motorcycle brigade that will also use motorcycle to to pursue these people if they are operating. And that works successfully in the Northeast. I think that seriously, that it should be what should be devised in this means, because this terrain, there are no roads. I must say, only very few roads you can count in some of these areas, and that makes going with vehicles or MRABs or APCs to all these areas very, very difficult. In one of the incidents that happened during the weekend, one of the MRABs was actually trapped on the road because of bad road. It was stuck there, and there was need to protect it and get some cover over it. And that was where, sadly, the Nigerian forces lost 12 of soldiers, which is very, very sad, because in doing that and help was called to come and support them, they ran into an ambush, just like you asked. People must have given information from those communities about this. So it's very, very sad. I think that people must, just like the governor of Kaduna did say at one time, he issued directives and orders to some communities to vacate their community, their territory, so that to give room for the air bombardment and on the land forces to clear up these bandits from the forest and where all the places they are hibernating. I think that that is one of the solutions that must be adopted quickly. It had worked in the Northeast because it gave the forces the freedom to operate easily without having or recording collateral damage of innocent citizens. And that you can see has helped to some extent in the areas in Kaduna because now the banditry activities have reduced a bit and drastically anyway. The roads are freer now than before. Briningwari is a little bit more accessible now because actions were taken. I think that is the only way we can get out of this quagmire we are now.
Now, you mentioned that the activities of bandits seem to have resumed, although from reports it is said that some of these bandits were fleeing from one particular location to the other, and then when there were bombardments, there was some level of collateral damage and all of it. But the president has promised to deliver a safe Nigeria at the end of this year and perhaps to the next government that would be coming in. Is that going to be possible from what you're seeing happening?
Yeah, I think that there's need, if I understand, if I get the question right, it wasn't very clear, but I think there's need to buy the support of the people, but maybe you can reframe, because I didn't get it clearly there.
I'm saying that with what you are seeing happening, that with the resumed activities of bandits, because some of them are said to have been fleeing from one position to the other, from one location to the other, because of the bombardments that the military was carrying out. And then there was collateral damage. And the president had promised that by the end of the year, he will ensure that there is a safe Nigeria, and he will be handing over a safe Nigeria to the incoming government come 2023 after the elections and all of it. I'm saying that, are we on the way to achieving that with all that is happening? Is it going to be possible?
Yeah, it will only be possible if we can take a whole of society approach on this issue and not leave it. It's not purely a military action or security forces action. The communities have a lot of roles to play. Communities, because when these bandits move from one area location to another, they pass through communities. Information, how quickly do information go to the security forces? But the people will rather be in silence because they will feel that they are not being targeted at that moment. But like I always say, if you see your neighbor being attacked today and you keep silent because you seem to be safe, you could be the next target tomorrow. And so there is need to give information quickly. We must adopt that system if that can work, where this insecurity can be eliminated before the next government comes in. Then, why there's need to deny these bandits freedom of movement from one location to the other. And the only way that can be done is through the air bombardment. I must give kudos to the Nigerian Air Force for doing their work, making sure that any time these people are sighted, then they will be striked out. And most of the strikes have been precise strike, and which is helping to stem the movement, deny this movement or freedom of movement. And the land forces are there to mop up those who may want to stray away. But to be able to do that effectively and reduce collateral damage, there is need, like I said earlier, let there be total evacuation of some of these areas. Any communities that are on the path of way where these bandits may likely pass in the forest or wherever they are, let them vacate those areas, and that will give a clear chance for these things to be done. It's better we get these people for a few months, you get inconvenienced by maybe relocating to somewhere else, and remain recurring every now and then, and sleepless nights and loss of resources every day. And mind you, because our forces, the manpower of the forces are not sufficient enough to cover every nooks and cranny of those areas that have been ungoverned for a very long time. If you can move from Niger State through to Kaduna, through to Zamfara, and outside the country without passing the normal roads. You pass through the forests and some communities in the forest without passing through the normal roads. And this is a very long stretch. And so the only solution is to clear those areas and ensure that these people don't have freedom of movement.
All right, as it is, of course, we're approaching an election, and if there is no security, of course, there's nothing INEC can do about it, or even the people coming out can do about it. But the security agents say they are doing all they can to ensure that everything goes on well. What impact do you think this is going to have, the insecurity is going to have on the coming election, especially in parts of the southeast where there seem to be deliberate and systematic attack on INEC, which is the election umpire?
Yeah, security is a major factor in election, how successful election is or not, because in a state of insecurity, I'll tell you that that election will be invalidated because people may not turn out, or destructions of equipment or facilities will be recorded, like we are seeing in the southeast, like you mentioned. It's very, very troubling because some sensitive, I'm happy that INEC have not started distributing some sensitive materials, but again, some of those facilities that are being destroyed, how quickly can we get them working before the election period? Or are we going to have an ad hoc or makeshift arrangement for these things so that these elections can take place in those areas smoothly? And how confident will the people come out to cast their vote without being threatened? Because we have seen some non-state actors threatening that people must not come out to vote. They are destroying the PVCs and all sorts. So insecurity is a very big, major threat to the coming election. And I think that quickly, again, government must do something to make sure that every Nigerian are given the privilege to cast their votes and voting the government they believe will do the right thing for them and not be denied that their franchise is something of urgency. And I know that the police, led by the IGP, Usman Al-Kalibaba, is capable to ensure that these INEC facilities are being protected. He has given marching orders, and as I speak, I know that he's going to be visiting Anambra, Enugu, and Ebonyi this week to ensure that strategies are put on ground that we will not experience these same destructions going on again. So I believe that before the election time, we will have seen improved security in those areas.
All right, we'll have to leave the conversation here now, but we must thank you, CEO Security Watch Africa Initiative, Patrick Agbambu, for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.